Hey friends, this is Gavin Hardkiss from Hardkiss Music in San Francisco, and you're listening to the Liverpool Connection podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am Daz. This is my football and music episodes where I like to bring on somebody that likes football and likes music. My next guest is someone who I spent a lot of time at the record store that he managed in Liverpool called 3Beat. Spent a lot of money there, which I probably shouldn't have done. It was money and trainers back in the day for me and Clobber. But I'm really, really honoured to welcome Steve Parry to the podcast. He's a DJ, producer, and co-label owner of Selador Records with Dave Seaman. And yeah, we got a lot to talk about. He's a Liverpool supporter, which is always a massive plus on the podcast. I actually had Greg Wilson on, who Steve has actually interviewed, and I didn't even know until I got him on the podcast that he was a United supporter. So that was yeah, and he's from Liverpool. I mean, he's
Yes,
from
he is.
but yeah, he said his older brother was a United supporter. So yeah, I still had him on, and he's absolutely brilliant. That'll be coming out either probably early next week. But anyway, getting back to this, Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. What an intro as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I really admire what you've done. You know, you have kept in this game for so long, where so many people, so many DJs and producers in this scene, as you know, come and go in a flash and have to reinvent themselves. You've just been you. You know, you've done the job.
I only know how to be me. So I just always am me, really. I've always liked what I like. And I'm from DJing. From Liverpool, most DJs play a particular sound, and I never quite did. I was always a little bit left of centre, and I quite like it over there. I never wanted to be famous. I didn't want to be the star of the show. I just wanted to play tunes that I liked to people who like them, and that's kind of what I've got away with for I don't know how many years, 30 years or something. I've been doing it now. God, it makes me feel old. Actually, no, I started DJing when I was 15, and I'm in my 50s now, so nearly 40 years, geez.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I'm a newbie sometimes as well. Which I'm clearly not.
No, obviously not. But, you know, but back, I mean, I can't believe you started when you were 15. I mean, today, a 15-year-old DJ is nothing. You know what I mean? Like everybody wants to DJ now because they see the lights, you know, the flashy cars and all this stuff. But I mean, starting at 15 for you, I mean, back then, like you said, you know, 40 odd years ago. Because I know I read a little bit, and you sneaked into Quadrant.
Well, how it all started was I wanted to be a radio DJ. That's how I got into it, and we started off doing mobile discos, right? And the reason we started doing mobile discos was my other mate Rick Horton, who ended up being on Radio City and has done Great Hits Radio. He also wanted to be a radio DJ, and it's weird that we both wanted to be DJs, and we literally lived around the corner from each other, which is literally only 2 roads from where I live now. So I'm back in the same area again. So anyway, Rick got this old-fashioned double deck, and it had 2 decks, a mixer, graphic equalizer, and an amplifier all built into one, which weirdly the new controllers have come back into that, but for 35 years they weren't that. They were all separate. You would have your Technics deck or your Pioneer turntable and your mixer, and you'd have everything separate. But this thing weighed a ton, and it was really, really heavy, and he got it because he wanted to practice being a radio DJ in his bedroom in his mum's house. And so we actually used to set up there's another lad called Nick Goodman who also ended up with a really successful radio career. We ended up doing this pretend radio station that didn't broadcast. However, we were so geeky that we stuck to this timetable religiously. Like, I would be on at 6 p.m. exactly on a Sunday, and I would do until 7, where we'd go over to the Greenwich Mean Time pips that we'd phone up, beep, 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 and then Nick had come on. We were proper geeky. We had jingles that we made, or we managed to nick off other radio stations that we played off our second cassette deck, and we used this double deck thing and did a pretend radio station, which is the ultimate in geekiness. But I mean, we all wanted to be radio DJs, and we did all become radio DJs. But I said, look, you've got this stuff here. You've got big speakers, you've got a mixer and an amp. If we buy some lights, we can start doing mobile discos. So we went in and we made an offer to St. Faith's Youth Club Disco, which is on once a month at St. Faith's Church Hall, which is just down the road. And we put in an offer that between us we'd get £15 a night. And funnily enough, no wonder they bit our hand off to give us the gig, paying us £15 for like 4 hours, which we split between us. So yeah, that's how I got into it all. And with my £7.50, I'd go out and buy records that I actually liked. Whereas at the youth club, I was playing things like, I mean, I was still learning my craft. I just knew about crowd pleasing then, so we'd play Rick Astley and Tiffany and the Beatles, Twist and Shout. It was just obvious anthems that you'd hear at a youth club disco. But then I'd go out, and so when was this? 1987. I'd probably go out and buy something like a Colonel Abraham's 12-inch with my £7.50 and something else. Because yeah, that's what I used to do. We used to do a load of discos, and we got quite successful actually. And then yeah, I used to feed my vinyl habit, which as you can see behind me, this is a little snippet of it. I got quite obsessed with being a vinyl collector. So yeah, and then because of that, and because we started doing mobile discos, you learn to speak on the microphone. And because I've been doing practice radio shows, I found it quite easy and natural compared to, like, especially a club DJ now. Imagine if you gave them a microphone, most would be like, oh yeah, thank you, bye. Whereas I used to go to full on. Some of them used to just say the buffet is open. I used to be able to chat for about half an hour on the microphone. But yes, so that is how I got into it, and that is how the whole DJing thing began. But the Quadrant Park thing that you mentioned, no, I used to go to Quadrant Park under 18s night when I was about 16. So I've been DJing for about a year now. Although I was 16 and most people went proper clubbing and snuck in, I looked about 12 then. There was no way on earth I was going to get in. So yeah, Quadrant Park Kids Night. Dave Ralph was the resident, and I just remember walking in and going, "Oh my God, what is this place?" It had a loud sound system, amazing lights, the first laser I'd ever seen, and also Dave Ralph was mixing, and it just blew my mind. I was like, I think I want to get into clubs now. I don't think I want to just be a radio DJ. And then I realized my ultimate aim was to not only, I wanted a radio show where, because people back then, mixing was very, very rare. They'd be like, we've got a mega mix, and it would be 3 records back to back. I wanted to have a radio show where mixing was just normal, and I didn't make a fuss about it. I just went from one track to another. And by the time I did start radio many years later, that's what I did, and it kind of became pretty much the format for just about every dance show on the planet. So I'm glad that I had that thought. I was clearly not the only person who had that thought, but I had that thought back in the day, many years ago. So this was about 89 or something, 88, 89, when I had all these crazy thoughts anyway.
Well, I mean, it was a great time for music. I mean, you know, you had Manchester pushing out Happy Mondays, Stone Roses, obviously, but the acid house scene started to come. And it's just, it was an amazing time, even though, you know, especially where we're from, Thatcherism and all that, it was bad, you know, a lot of people on the dole, but, you know, a good night out is a good night out, and you kind of let your worries go for, you know, a few hours. But where did it really start to go like, I can, start making a career out of this?
Well, after Quadrant Park closed, or no, the kids' night stopped, and then it became, because back then Quadrant Park was more of a commercial club. They used to have people like Nicky D and Charlie C doing Fridays and Saturdays, and you'd go and hear the latest soul and hip hop and chart music and the likes. But then when that flipped, then the kids' night was no longer on there. Then the next time I saw an under 18s night, and I was like, oh, it's the same DJ, it's Dave Ralph, was Fallows in Aintree. So then that was our next thing. We used to go down there religiously. So it was a Tuesday night, and I used to go and speak to Dave. John Cotton was the other DJ then. Both of these kind of took me and Rick Horton and Nick Goodman under their wing, and they'd help us. Like, they'd be like, come and warm up and stuff. And I was probably 17 by then, only looking about 14 by then. But so they helped us, and they helped us. They were showing us things about mixing and using the microphone and about musical programming, and we learned a lot off them. So when opportunities arose, like the owner of Fallows also opened a bar in Wigan that was called, oh God, what was the bar called? Kennedy's Bar, which was open 7 nights a week. So they wanted 7 DJs. So that, just as I was turning 18, I was probably only, no, because I couldn't drive then. So I was 17. They gave me a residency, and they gave Rick Horton a residency, and they gave Nick Goodman a residency. Because they're open 7 nights a week. And then Dave did a night there, John Cotton did a night there, and a couple of other DJs, Alan Bates and Cy Edwards maybe. So I was thinking, I can get paid for doing this, and I flipping love it. So yeah, I must have been 17 or almost 17 because I couldn't drive. And I remember getting lifts there off people, lifts to and from Wigan for a DJ gig. It was only on until 11. But I remember thinking, when I did pass my test and borrow my dad's car, or I had my first car as well, I could drive to and from gigs and earn money. I was like, oh, this is quite good. And then suddenly it kind of blossomed. Then I ended up with my first proper residency was a Friday night in Fallows. And that was around 1990. It was me, and originally it was a lad called Nick Goodman. Again, Nick features heavily in and out of my life with DJing and music and radio shows and stuff. And then he went off to university, and DJ Tricks, who I was a massive fan of, was originally a hip-hop DJ and was into scratching, and he was a European mixing champion, and I proper idolised him. Anyway, he wanted to get into playing house music. So Dave Ralph, who set up the Friday night gig for me, was like, let's bring up in DJ Tricks. And that's where I made a friendship with DJ Tricks. So suddenly I was doing a kids disco, I had a Friday night. And then I was doing Kennedy's as well. Suddenly I was having 3 gigs a week, every week when I was like 17. And that went on and on. And Fallows 2 opened, and I ended up, because they just moved like half the DJ team over there. And I remember DJing like 5 nights a week and earning more money than I could spend back then. I was like, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. So I'd finished school by then, and because I'd done my GCSEs, did quite well at GCSEs, and then I did my A-levels, and I only did my A-levels because I didn't know what I wanted to do for a job. I failed at my A-levels miserably because I was too busy going out DJing 5 nights a week. But I was somehow still turning up for school. And the next thing I did after that was we went to... Now, my memory's a bit hazy about this, but there was something that used to be in a building in town that was a music production course that the farm ran. And everybody wanted to be a guitarist or a drummer or a singer. And I was like, no, I want to be a producer. And when I've got no knowledge of it, and I went, well, all these people need producing. So that's the next thing I got on. So that was quite good and interesting. I was watching people like learn how to play the guitar, and somebody was showing me how you EQ it on a desk and how it should be with the volume control. And I just thought, this is what I want to do from now on. I just want to be in music somehow. And weird! I've just had a memory that just flooded into me because of that. They sent me on a there was a studio that was kind of near Lark Lane, and they were looking for like what they used to call a tape op. So you kind of went in and you just did the lucky stuff. You're making cups of tea and bits and pieces, but it's how a lot of people really learn their craft in the studio. And they said to me, "Do you want to do it?" I went, "Yeah, this sounds absolutely amazing." I mean, it was kind of YTS money or something. And I said, "Okay." He went, "Well, sometimes the sessions can go on to midnight." And I went, "Oh, I can't do that because I DJ the weekends." And they were like, "Oh no, you either got to be committed or not." And I went, "Well, I want to be a DJ." So anyway, I didn't take the job. And anyway, it turns out it's the studios where Oasis started recording. So I could have been producing Oasis for all I know. But who knows? You never do know, do you? I'd have just tried to make them into a house band anyway, house music band. So they wouldn't have liked my cup of tea, would they? They would have booted me out of the studio. But hey ho. Yeah, I haven't thought about that story for about 25 years. It just suddenly popped into my mind then. 40 times.
Yeah, it's, you know, when you think about that, like I heard Noel said he went to a house club one time and he said that was enough for him. So yeah, I could never see you kind of pushing Oasis to do a electronic album. But I mean, do you think it was like, the old saying, right place at the right time for you?
Yes, always. People always say you've got to be lucky. You do have to be lucky, but you've got to make your own luck. You've got to put yourself. These things don't just happen. You've got to put yourself in these positions and speak to these people to make it happen. It's how I was thinking about it before because I was wondering what I was going to talk about, and I was thinking, what was it I wanted to do? And I wanted to be... Three of the things I really wanted to do in my life were I wanted a radio show. So I pestered everybody at Juice FM and I got a radio show. I'd already given them a demo, and Dave Graham used to do Friday nights and he was leaving. I think he was going to Radio City, and I think he was literally leaving on the Monday, and they suddenly had a massive gap in the schedule, and they're like, "Oh, we'll move that, whoever it was, Les Calvert forward, and do you want to do Friday nights 10 till midnight?" And I was like, "What? Yes, I do. It's what I've always wanted." And also, I wanted to work in 3-beat records, so I got to know... I mean, I shopped in 3-beat anyway, but I got to know everybody really well. I'd book Pairs from 3-beat to come and play my nights. I'd stalk Pairs. I'd ring him all the time. I mean, I was good mate to them. But because of this, that's how I ended up working for 3-beat. And also Les Calvert, who has been one of my best mates since we were 18. We worked together in so many places. Well, we used to work together years ago in Groover Records. And then he was always pecking Pez's head. You need Steve, you need Steve, you need Steve. And then, so I ended up there. And the third thing I really wanted to do was be Cream resident. But because I was in 3-beat, I was in the thick of it. And the promoters of Cream and Alan Green, the booker, would come in and I'd speak to him. And one day he was like, "Oh, can you do this Saturday?" So, and then once you're in, you're in. So all these things, yeah, it is right place, right time. But you have to put yourself in the mix. You have to, I mean... You also have to do... People always say, how do you do well in the industry? And I say, you can't just take from the industry. You've got to give it back. So that's why I put on my own nights. That's why I've got a record label. That's why I make music. You've got to feed into it for it to keep going. And you see people like Youssef do the same. He's a DJ, but he's a producer, but he's a record label, but he's done podcasts, he's done radio shows, he's been on Radio 1. He's done everything. And you've got to do this if you want to push yourself forward. So that, and I think it was probably the norm back in my day, because when I first started going out and pestering people, I couldn't email people because there wasn't the internet. I didn't have people's phone numbers, so I had to go and speak to them in person. And I also think that if you go and speak to people in person, they remember you more. Yeah. And also, especially if you go to their events, you're supporting their events, and whether you do or not mean to, you're subconsciously gaining their trust and their favor. So yeah, that'd be my advice to anybody who's in the industry. Put yourself out there, go and speak to people. If you like someone's track, especially nowadays, you can message people on Instagram or whatever, say I really like your track, and the amount of people who come back to you and go, oh really, that's amazing. Because people if people do it to me, I'm like, oh wow, because I make music for myself, and if anybody else likes it, that's a bonus. Now that's another thing. It took me a long time to realize that, because I used to make tracks that I used to try and make for other people to play, and they were always rubbish. But as soon as I made one for myself that I had no intention of releasing, that's the one that did really well. That's the one that got signed to John Digweed's label, because I was doing it as an artist rather than trying to be a people pleaser. So yes, always be true to yourself as well, and make tunes that you like, and don't try and people please.
I've read before that you said, you know, put more into the scene than what you take out of it, and I couldn't agree more. I just think if you're aspiring producer or DJ, you've got to put in the hard graft. You know,
yeah.
it's not going to come to you on a plate. And I just think, you know, social media has made it easier for people to get in touch with one another, but there is nothing like face to face, because they will remember your face. You know, emails get lost. You know,
totally.
Especially busy A&R people. You know yourself, you'll probably get tracks sent to you, and you probably won't hear them for like a year, and then you'll find it and go, oh my God, where's this been?
Yeah. One thing I always say, well, if I get a demo from somebody who's been to a club night and I recognize the name, I'm going to listen to that before somebody whose name I don't recognize, because it'll just be like, oh, there's so and so, I want to listen to their track. Especially nowadays when there's so many tracks coming through. And just one other thing from a record label point of view, what I would say is, if you are going to send demos to somebody, we've got a specific sound for our record label, but we get sent drum and bass to reggae to trance, and you're like, no, think about who you're going to send it to. Find out the person's name, who it is, address it to them, and say, I wanted to send you this track. I really love this, and this on your label. I hope you get a chance to listen to it. Because you've shown that you appreciate the label. You've found the effort out to find out who the person it is to send it to, and you've got it and sent it to that one person. You also get demos come through that are sending to like 200 people at once. I just delete them. I don't want records other people have got for the label. I want to hear it exclusive. And if it is that thing where I go, this is that lad in Manchester, I'll listen to his track, I will always, whether I mean to or not, it'll queue jump, because I always mean to listen to everybody's demos, but there's just not enough flipping hours in the day. As you can agree with how hard it is to get hold of me. I never mean to be this busy, but there's just a lot of things to do. But yes, all good.
Well, I was listening to Danny Tenaglia interview the other day, and with Will Clark, and you know he was kind of saying the same thing. He's like, you know, now that he doesn't play, you know, vinyl as much, he gets sent so many promos and stuff that he goes, I don't have enough hours in the day to check them all out. So he's like, I'm probably missing some gems.
Yeah. Nobody can know everything. There's so much stuff now. I think I'm under exaggerating when I say there's something like 30,000 tracks a week on Beatport come out. 30,000, right? Yeah. Who'd have time to listen to 300? Not 30,000. I mean, I do get sent 300, 400, 500 promos a week, and again, I don't mean to, but if there's somebody's name who I know, I'm going to listen to their tune first rather than DJ A on a record label called Nothing Records that I've never heard of. Whereas if it's like somebody who I know, I'll be like, oh, listen to this. You don't mean to. It's just so much stuff. And I think that is the difference between the digital age and the vinyl age. What used to happen is somebody had to make a track that they thought was good enough to send to the record label. The record label had to then think it was good enough to be able to press and pay to put it on vinyl, to go to a distributor, to then get past the ears of the person in the record shop before the person even in the shop gets to listen to it. It had already gone through that funnel. Whereas now it's just bang! How would you listen to all these? So that is one thing that is certainly missing from the digital era. I mean, as you all know, we were talking about 3-beat records before. You'd go and speak to if you wanted a housey thing, you'd speak to Thomas. Or if it was a proggy thing, you'd ask me. You'd go to the person who knew about that. You can't do that on Beatport. You can't do that on iTunes or Apple Music or whatever. Spotify, yeah, you can a little bit. But I know I'm going way off subject here, but we started talking about the algorithm in Brighton Music Conference. I was on a panel last week, and they were saying, is the algorithm really listening? And I always, my instant thought was, no, it can't be. It can't know that geeky little way of that track. You'll know it can only kind of recommend stuff that's kind of similar. And the similar thing it's going to recommend is probably not as good as the first one, which will then, the third one will not be as good as the second one. And it's just going to diminish in an ever increasing circle of averageness. And I think sadly, that's what the algorithm is doing. It can't be that record shop geek who goes, oh my God, listen to this B-side I just found. And I know you like acid, and this has got a mad acid line in, and it sounds like a David Morales dub, and John Digweed's played it. That's not the algorithm. That's the opposite of the excited person in the record shop. What was that film with the drum and bass fellow, the British fellow who gets very excited and he's shouting about, yeah, listen to this, bruv, and he plays a drum and bass track. I can't think of what it is now. It was before Trainspotting. Human Traffic, was it?
Human. Anyway. The one in the record store.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he was just like selling stuff to sell stuff. I mean,
yeah.
At record stores, you used to be able to push stuff on anyone. Yeah, this is the latest one from the West Coast. Here you go. How much is it? It's a 20 quid, and you're just like, oh man, all right, here we go. Yeah, yes. Like car salesmen, you can sell a piece of crap, but
yeah, we never meant to. Just sometimes we bought in the wrong stuff, but then we were stuck with 10 of them. So when you had people, this is a trick of the trade we used to do. When we'd have 3 or 4, when they listen to 3 or 4 things, and don't forget, in a good record shop, there's a brilliant sound system. So it's not like you're listening to like a pair of, like you listen to Spotify on a little pair of tinny headphones or on your phone or something. This is like a nightclub. You could turn it up loud and people would be like, yes, I love that. So yeah, those things we got stuck with. When we were like, oh, it's playing everything here, I better get rid of one of these. Because otherwise we got sold off for buying all the bad stuff in. So I can say that now, 25 years later. And I also get told off by people for taking so much money off them, which they probably could have put down on a deposit for a house if they put it all together. And I apologise for that, but hopefully their record collection is worth a fortune now.
Well, I mean, you didn't really twist our arms. I mean,
no.
We wanted the latest stuff, and like I said, music and trainers were my number one thing back then. But it's just, like you say about Beatport, I'll get on Beatport on a Monday. The new releases and stuff. I spend a couple of hours on there, and I only like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, like going in a record store, it's the social aspect. Yeah. You see the people at work there, they know who you are. You'll see a couple of mates, or you'll see people kind of, listening to their own thing, and you get to chatting, and that's the connection. And I think we've lost that. And there's nothing better than I remember and because I've been over in the States for a long time now. Sasha played in Jacksonville, and I had made a chill out tape, just mixed it, and waited till the end, and I gave it to Sasha, and I went, it's not stuff I made. It's just a mix. If you want to listen to it on a plane, I'd love that. I don't know whatever happened to it. It might have listened to it, it might have not, but it gave me the satisfaction of being able to hand it to a person that I admire, the most. And I'm sure it's kind of the same thing. I would think, once you're done with a gig and some lad has taken the time to press his record and gives it to you and goes, please give this a listen, rather than sending you an email. This is like, what obviously he's taken the time to, press the track himself. That's got to make, and especially going, I would love to have it on your label. That's got to be like, the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think going back to the record shop was a massive social hub. It was people coming in buying tapes or tickets or T-shirts, but predominantly people buying vinyl. And it was nice to see, say, for example, there was an overspill musically. Like, I'd be playing something in the shop and Lee Butler would be like, what is that? Now, Lee Butler does not play music that I like, but he's then been introduced to a track that he necessarily wouldn't be like, I'll have that. And that was always great to see. And I also used to see people talking about, they'd be like, oh, that's really good. Have you heard this one? This is people in the shop talking to each other, and I'd pass it to it. And the next thing, those lads are doing a night together, people who they just met, and they might never have met. And that was a really powerful hub. I used to get a lot of gigs working in the record shop just because I worked in the record shop, and they'd hear me playing stuff. They were like, if we put a night on, will you come and play? And I don't get that quite so much. I mean, yeah, I still get it from the label, but in the record shop days, I was DJing 3 nights a week, easily Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I had the radio show 2 days a week, and I was in. So by the time I got to Saturday, so Thursday I'd be in the shop. It was just getting busy because Friday would be chaotic. So Thursday night I'd probably do Modo. Friday I'd be in the shop again. Then I'd do the radio show, and then I'd do Alderon, and then I'd get up and still go to 3 Beat. Then I'd do a second radio show, and then I might play Green. By the time it got to flipping 3 a.m. on Saturday, I was like, oh my God, I've just done about 50 hours in 3 days. I'm flipping burnt out again. But it was flipping amazing. They were flipping great times. I absolutely loved them. And people think it's an easy job working in a record shop. It's not. It's full on. But it's amazing. The money was rubbish. Mm-hmm. I took a big pay cut to go and work in the record shop, and I had to give up a company car. And most people, and I had been working in a bank, and they used to give me big bonuses. So for me to go and throw all that into working in a record shop, people thought I was flipping insane. But it was, especially when I got to work in 3 Beat, it was a lifelong dream. It was something that I really, really loved. And you get really close to the lads who you work with in the record shop, because you just introducing each other to great music all day, every day. But you'd think we'd be finished work and be sick of each other. No, we used to go out all the time. Midweek, go out for meals, and then we'd all catch up with each other after the clubs on Friday and Saturday. Yeah, we lived in each other's pockets because you're very, very like-minded. You're not about the money. You're just all about the music, and of course, lots of parties and good times and silly, crazy things. And living a similar lifestyle. But yeah, they were brilliant times in 3 Beat. 10 years I worked there, and that was flipping amazing. Good stuff.
Well, it was great to see, the next step for 3 Beat was, actually producing music, for a lot of the people that work there as well. And, you look back, anything from 90 to, 2000, a lot of the top 10s were 3 Beat records,
yes.
Which was really great. it's kind of like, made me proud. I obviously I DJ and I dabble in music, but not to the point where I've put anything out. But I always look back on 3 Beat going, I'm proud from the hometown
Yeah,
to do something like that, and
it
it
did
was
well.
really well.
So it had a record label, which did well. I mean, they had Lisa Marie Experience and I forgot the name. People who did I Know, I Can Count on You. It's just escaped my mind. But they had big hits. But as well as that, the record, I was always very, very proud of the record shop because there was always other record shops in Liverpool, but I wanted us to be the best shop in the country, and we outlasted, especially in the latter days. So I left in 2008. I think I left, 2008. But coming up those last few years, they were really hard because record shops are closing down left, right, and centre. But so the strong dance music ones from around the world were still there. So we were not just one of the best in the Northwest. We were one of the best in the world for what we did, and that used to make us very proud and keep us going and know that we were doing good stuff. I mean, we must have been doing good stuff because we had Graham Park, Timo Master, Paul Van Dyke, Doc Martin, all buying records from us all the time. I mean, Sasha, Danny Howell, Steve Lawler, anyone who was popping into Cream, John Please Women, Seb Fontaine, just so many people constantly in and out the doors. But yeah, that's a good feeling. You do. That was a nice thing when you're like, drink, hello, 3 Beat. All right, Steve, it's Sasha. That used to freak me out. All right, Sasha, because like you are, and I still am. I'm a massive Sasha fan. So for me to be like, oh, you need this track. Oh, you need this track. I'll post them down to you. And that's how I started stalking John Dickweed. Really, I used to go and speak to him at gigs, but then I remember phoning up and going, that lad who always asks you what tunes are with the Scouse accent? He's like, yeah. And I went, well, now I'm in charge of Progressive House and 3 Beat. And he just went, Jesus, God help me. And I still speak to him. I spoke to him this week. He's a good lad. But that's nice. I harking back to what I was saying earlier. I never wanted to be a famous DJ. I never wanted it. I always wanted to be half decent at my job and respected by my peers, and hopefully I've done that. So that's a nice thing. And I'm not saying I haven't done well, because I've played some amazing places, from Taiwan to Moscow to Australia and America and space and Ibiza and Watergate. So even though I don't class myself as famous, I'm happy with what I've done. There's still a lot more I want to do. I wrote it all down the other day because I used to always have a list of the places I wanted to play. And the very, very top one back then was Bedrock. I always wanted to play Bedrock, John Digweed's parties. So when I didn't do a list for about 20 years because I was like, oh yeah, I've done all these now. It was only the other week I was like, I'm going to do a list again. I want to play here, I want to play here, I want to play here. So yes, I've started to make some goals again of stuff I want to do, because I've been happily ambling along, which is good, which is nice. I haven't got any pressure on myself, which is good. It's nice. I do this because I really want to do it. But I tell you what, I do miss. I miss radio again. I was starting to turkey for doing live radio shows. And it's the thrill of it. It's the what I like is I never properly planned it. Never ever properly planned a show. Like if I had a guest mix, obviously I'd have that organised, and I'd always know what my tune of the week would be called, and that's about it. I'd just go in and play it by ear, and mixes could go wrong, or I could say something stupid, or I could really mess up, or it could be the best show I've ever done, and that's what I buzz off. That thrill of live sort of radio, especially when you used to be able to be live streaming on the net as well, so people could listen to you like around the country or around the world and stuff. And the only thing I've kind of got near to that of recent years is during lockdown when I started to do live streams again, because I did that to keep myself happy, because I thought there's no way I can't play tunes for, well, I thought it was going to be 3 months initially. How long was there? How long were we locked up for? But literally the decks that are there, that I'd go on there. I bought some little disco lights, and I locked myself in the room, and I'd just play new tunes for 3, 4, 5 hours, and it was brilliant getting messages from your mates on Facebook, and it'd be the live chat, and then you'd get you'd get people saying, "Oh, I'm tuned in from Orlando," and you'd be like, how did you know I was on? And you're in Orlando, and then you'd get people waking up Australia. Oh, I'm just having breakfast and listening to you in the mix. That was amazing. They were good times. So maybe that's what I need to do again before I get a radio show. Do some more live streams.
Yeah,
The good thing is I haven't got far to go. It's literally like there's decks and touching them here. So yeah,
I just need to turn them on. Yeah, I
Yes.
think, you know, COVID, even though it had a lot of bad things,
yeah,
it also kind of brought like families closer. But I started this podcast during COVID as well, because
Okay, cool.
I needed an outlet. And,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
same as yourself. I mean, if you're used to DJing every single weekend and then all of a sudden, absolutely nothing, you know,
Yeah.
it's all gone quiet and you go mental. I mean, I remember, who was it that I know Youssef did the warehouse party, the first one back in
Yes.
Liverpool.
I went to that.
Was it Lauren Losung that she just
Yes.
burst out crying?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because she hadn't played to anyone. It was like,
yeah, that really hit me when I saw
Yeah.
that, and I just saw like it was like she was crying, and then all of a sudden, you know, the DJ part
Yeah.
of it just kicked in, and the whole place just erupted. And I think, you know, you got to take the. I try and take the positive out of a lot of negative that happens. Not just with COVID, but just what's going on in the world. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
music to me is therapy. It's gotten me through some dark times. You know, when I want to feel happier, I put a track on, you know,
Yeah.
that I've heard over and over again, that there's certain, you know, either a string section will get me,
Yeah.
or just a plain beat, melodies. So yeah, I think it's a release, but yeah, I think you should go full steam ahead again with some live streams, because people do like them, you know. Yeah, and again, as with social media, you get so many people from around the world that you would never ever have got. You know,
Yeah.
I try not be the old man on a rocking chair outside my house and kids are playing, running on me grass. You know, oh, back in our day it was better. You know what? Maybe it was. I just feel that it's the kids' days today. Sometimes I
Yes.
don't understand like the whole content stuff, you know, 24/7, like bam, 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 follow me everywhere, you know. And then now you've got talk of pre-recorded sets so they can do the visuals.
Yeah.
I think that's an abomination. I don't care who you
Yes.
are. You should never do a pre-recorded set. And if you
No.
get asked to do it, you should tell them where to go. You know, I just, you know, being brought up where I was, I was able to, you know, go to Quadrant, Cream, Three Beat, and then moving over to America. I had the greatest time because I lived 4 hours away from Orlando, and I went to Oz, which is where Sasha and Digweed first came.
Okay.
And it just, the prog scene just blew up. I mean, you had Kimball Collins,
Yeah.
Dave Canolti, you know, were pushing the prog sound, but when Sasha and Diggers came, it just blew up. And then there's another place in Gainesville called Simon's that I used to go to as well. And, you know, I got the best of both worlds because, you know, I'm in a bunch of groups and you see, you know, some English ravers say, you Americans didn't get this. And I'm like, you must be joking, because you obviously weren't in America at the same time.
Yeah.
I just laugh, because I'm just like, the scene over here in America was rocking.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I used to love the American sound because I used to speak to Chris Fortier a lot, and I know he was big then, and he had his record pool called Balance.
Yeah, I
So,
was on it actually for a
oh,
while.
were you?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, he used to get hold of. He was predominantly in that prog sound, and he would have tracks for his promo pool, and I'd just be phoning him up. Chris, get me some records no one else has got. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll send you this. Like, I want them for myself, but he used to get stuff for 3-beat as well. And so we were finding, I was trying to, did you say Kimball Collins? Yeah, I think you mentioned him. And Deckard, and who else was there? I'll remember loads of them. C.L. Schultz, was it? I used to love, I mean, all of it. It was different for the British sound. It was very playable, but it just had a slightly different edge to it, and I like that. In the same way that the German stuff had a slightly different edge. Yeah, it was good that all these pockets of things were going on, and it's exciting, and it's weird. I now speak to people like Noel Sanger and Randall Jones, and it's like, oh yeah, Steve, we've been following your music for years, and I was like, what? What do you mean? Well, how did you? Why do you even know me from? I was a fan of yours. I've got like 30 records by you both each. So yeah, it does. The music connection, especially in a smaller scene compared to EDM, for example, with the progressive scene, it's a much smaller, intimate, very knowledgeable, clued up crowd, and because of that, I've got mates all around the world, very close mates. One of my best mates is Carlos Elizondo, a DJ from Mexico City, who I speak to every week because he used to buy records off me, and I've been to play for him. And we've just got so many things that are mutual. He supports Liverpool, which freaks me out, even though he lives in Mexico City. And we both like the same kind of music. We both just so much stuff. And it's all our initial connection was our love of music. And I think that's a very, very powerful thing. And of course it still happens. And it's I tell you what is nice, and it is funny, and I find it quite funny. When I used to go to say I'd go and see Sasha I remember going to see Sasha and John Digweed in Huddersfield in a converted church, and it was full. And I thought, where do you people normally go? Because where do you normally go? Because I never kind of see you. But then we'd go to somewhere in Leeds or Birmingham or wherever it may be, and I'd recognise a few faces. Anyway, I never knew any of these people. I'd know a few of them. When you now go on to some of the progressive house groups on Facebook, and you ask the question, did any of you ever used to go here? And like, oh yeah, I went to that, I went to that, I went to that. So it's now all these people now meeting each other 25 years later over the love of a club night from 25, 30 years ago. I think that's bonkers and brilliant. I've had in-depth conversations with many people, and I was like, I was probably stood next to you at one point, and we didn't even say hello or something. He was like, yeah, isn't that weird? So sorry, yeah, I got well off tangent there. I don't even know how I started, but anyway, I've taken 3 left turns. I'm over here now.
Nah, it's all
good.
good.
The love of music. That was it. The love of music. Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually on a group called Progressive House Classics.
Yes.
It's a really good group, but you know, it's funny because I know this. The DJs back then would play some trance stuff, and I'm a very hardcore like Prog head.
Yeah.
So when you say progressive house, you better mean progressive house to me.
Okay.
And some people are, have put songs in the group that are trance, and they're very good. That I'm like, that's trance, and they're like, okay.
I saw that post today, actually.
Did you? Yeah, that was
me.
I
did. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, because I just there is a difference.
There is. It depends on the era, though, because I mean, there's things on like, there is definitely a difference between prog and trance, but there was definitely some things on some of the trance labels. See, Platypus kind of rode the prog trance wave right in the middle very well. I think they did that so well because they came from psytrance, didn't they? And then so they could touch on trance, but they could touch on prog as well. But there was stuff on Bonsai as well. There was a track called Private Productions Sex Drive, and it took me years to get this track. And so when I used to play it, I'd be like, yes, I knew no one else had it. So so there was definitely some decent prog trance. Yeah, there was loads of flipping stuff I didn't like at all. But I remember finding only last year we used to do a little night in Liverpool called Alderon, and now that ran from 97 to 2001, I think. Is that 5 years? 7, 8, 9 years? Yeah.
Of Lemon Lounge, right?
Dead Lemon Lounge, yes. Which for anyone who doesn't know it, there was a pub that used to have they used to brew their own beer. It's been loads of names. I think it was called the Black Horse and Rainbow at one point. It's called Liverpool Brewing Company, possibly. Anyway, above that was this grotty little room that had a not very good sound system, terrible light. It didn't have curtains on the window, so when you were at night, you could see people eating kebabs and stuff outside. I mean, it was upstairs. You had to look out the window, and it had the worst toilet you've probably ever been in. However, it was unbelievable. It was an amazing place. It was just one of those places that you'd only go to if you knew about it. So because of that, only music heads went. And we did a night there. And we started off as once a month. Then we started getting cocky and we did every other week. And then the manager came up to us and said, listen, there's another prog night who want to come in between your weeks. And I was like, oh no, they can't do that. They're just going to rob our crowd. So then we went weekly. So we ended up doing over 5 years. We did 4 years of every Friday playing in that tiny little room. And luckily the sound did get a bit better. The lights got a bit better. And we were getting in this room that was legally allowed to hold 90. Sometimes there was a few more in than that, shall we say. We had Tilt, Parkson Wilson, Quiver, Anthony Papa, Lee Burridge, Danny Howells. Some of the DJs we used to get. And they used to come and play for like 100 quid and stuff. Whereas now they're getting tens of thousands of pounds. But again, they did it because they flipping loved it and they knew the crowd was going to be into it. And they also knew that they could play music. And the crowd was so, even if it wasn't busy, because you can't be busy every week. If people say Anthony Papa's on, the week before we'd try and find, say, Casey Toby over from Australia, and he wasn't that well known then. And I think when he played, I think there was about 25 people in there. But the crowd was so up for it, and they were asking, "What's this tune? What's this?" And they'd see him get out his acetate of stuff, and they'd be like, "It's an acetate." That's what the crowd would be like. It was just like a proper geeky. It was always like a show that was on for proper record head progressive house geeks. But yeah, so anyway, we did that, and I've played some of the best clubs in the world, some of the Greenfields. I played big festivals, I played all around the world. But my favourite place to probably ever play was the Lemon Lounge, because it was just. It was like my room, and the people who went there, it felt like you were in a party that had a bar on the corner, and it was just flipping great. I absolutely loved it. But I go glossy eyed and big smiles, as you can see when I talk about the Lemon Lounge in Alderaan, and the thing that we did is we went out on a high. We went out. And people don't do this. We stopped it when it was still busy. And because of that, I will never do a reunion, because the reunion's never going to be as good as it was. So I don't want to tarnish people's memories. I like people to remember how it was. And I get asked all the time, do a reunion. I was like, no, it's not happening. I can't do it. I would play that room again. And a few years ago, we did get that room again. But it's normally like quite a fancy bar. And it took us, me and my mate Nick hired it out, and it took us so long to get the room trying to look like it was. We had to move out 3 or 4 couches, up a set of stairs, and tables and paintings off the wall, and I just got back from Australia, and I hadn't been well, and it was just too much effort. So by the time the gig came, I was so tired and I was gutted because I'd wanted to play there 20 years. But anyway, I've redone it now, and lots of the right people were there, and I purposely didn't play any tunes that I used to play until the last hour. I had to make them wait. So when they did hear those tunes again in that same room, it was like, yeah. So yeah, good times. But yeah, the Lemon Lounge, flipping crazy place. They had some brilliant DJs. I remember a night called Lime used to have Ralph Lawson play there. I remember I've forgotten the name of the night now, but they had some of the German DJs. It wasn't Mark Romboy. It's like, what? Mark Romboy played the Lemon Lounge. But it's mad. Youssef used to come for a night out. Nick Van Chula used to come for a night out. We used to have so many people just on a night out who were like went on to do so well. So yeah, we must have been doing something right back then.
Yeah, sounds like it, man. You know, it's already nearly an hour.
Is it? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we haven't even mentioned football yet. Sorry.
No,
I did warn you before we came on. If you mentioned music, I won't shut up.
well, no. I mean, I've got still so many questions. I mean, if you want to do an extra like 20 minutes,
I can keep going. Yes, let's keep going. If I haven't bored anyone to tears yet, and there's still some people left going, I thought this was about football.
No, yeah. Well, I guarantee there'll be somebody going. You know, because some people don't know how to press pause, and you can press pause and come back, or you know, you can fast forward. But yeah, it's something that, you know, again, that I love to talk about is music as well. I do want to know how you got together with Dave and started, you know, your own record label. I mean, again, that's your baby, you know.
Yes.
With Dave, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds very wrong, but yeah. Well, I've known Dave since Shelley's days, so that was where Dave Ralph, Dave Seaman, and Sasha were residents in Shelley's in Stoke. And also Dave used to come and play. Dave Seaman used to come and play for Dave Ralph's night in Fallows and in Fallows 2, so I used to speak to him there. And then I'd always go and follow Dave. I was a big follower of Dave. Used to go and try and see him wherever I can, especially in Cream, but Hacienda as well, and Sankey's and wherever. Anyway, so I then ended up working in 3-Beat Records. Dave would phone up. I'd be like, Steve Parry, I'm Dave Ralph's mate. And so we'd carry on. So I used to sell Dave records. When I left the record shop, I set up a business because suddenly I deserted all the DJs with nowhere to buy music, because I was their go-to if they'd phone up, or I'd just send them a package. There's a lot of DJs that just send a package every week, and they'd listen to what they wanted and post back the ones that they don't want with a check. Shows how old it was. So I knew Dave from then, and then when I finished, I set up my own company. And I was originally going to buy tracks for them on Beatport, but I couldn't work out a way to monetize it. And it was Timo Mass, who we used to also sell records to, said, Steve, this sounds like a great idea, but who's going to listen to these 200-300 promos that I get sent every week? Can I just pay you a wage and you buy me some records on Beatport and you listen to all my promos and you filter it out? So anyway, I did that for Timo, I did that for Dave Seaman, and a couple of other DJs as well. So they were actually paying me to get, and don't forget, they're A-list DJs, to get the best of the best tunes. And this is digital, so I'd be like, here we go, one for Timo, one for Dave, one for me. Thank you very much. I mean, I've always thrived on finding music that no one else has got and being the first person to play it. And I would play it until I made it big. And as soon as I made it, other people getting onto it, I'd stop and move on to the next one. That's what I've always done. So having access to all this music was amazing. Anyway, one day I was speaking on, right now, this again will show you how old it was, AOL Messenger to Dave Seaman, because remember MSN Messenger and AOL Messenger, everyone used to chat on there. And I just mentioned to Dave I was going to start a record label. And as soon as I pressed send and said that, my mobile rang. I was like, "Oh, it's Dave," and he said, "Steve, you starting a record label? Can I do it with you?" And I went, "No." And he went, "Why not?" And I went, "Because everyone will just think it's your record label, and I'll be doing all the paperwork." And he went, "No, no, 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 no. Everything will be 50-50. If there's ever an interview, I will mention it's our record label." And 11 years later, yes, he still does this. He still mentions it's not his record label, it's our record label. Everything is done. It is a 50-50 decision. We set out some rules initially that we would only sign a track if both of us love it and both of us would play it. If one of us wouldn't play it or didn't love it, we can't sign it. Even if one of us absolutely loves it to bits, it's a no. So it's good because it's kind of got two A&R people to get through. So hopefully by the time we release tracks, it gets quite good. Now, after all these years of being in the industry and working in 3-Beat and being Cream resident and having radio shows on Juice FM, I knew a lot of people. I thought I could open a lot of doors. But when you start working with Dave Seaman, who was at DMC and a former Mix Mag editor and has produced the Pet Shop Boys and Kewley, he has sets of keys to open doors I didn't know existed to try and get access to people. And I was like, wow. There's a whole other world of geekiness. I thought I could talk people and stuff. So yeah, Dave is ace at that. And yeah, here we are, still 11 years later. We're still putting out tracks that we want to play in our set and we both love. And that's still the rule. We both have to want to sign and play and love a track. Otherwise, we don't get it. And yeah, we've done well out of it. I mean, as underground record labels go, I think people think that you're buying like a second yacht. I mean, I don't think we've hardly taken a penny out of the business between us in 11 years because any money that we do get, we fund in because we get excited and we'll want to get a Charles Webster remix or a Jimpster remix or just to please ourselves. We know it might necessarily sell lots, but it's that going back to the record shop or DJ geekiness. We just get things to go, yeah, we've got a remix by them. And that makes me very, very happy. And that is why we still do it. And we also started the label because neither of us were making tracks. So we've been forcing each other to make tracks. Dave's been making more than I have lately. So then I get very jealous. So it's forced me, and now it's forced me to finish 2 new tracks. So that's good. It's like very healthy competition. And of course, if we're signing tracks by Robert Babbage and Tiro Mass or whoever it may be, we have to think that we need to try and make a track that is good enough to compete with these people who are very well respected big names. So I think it's good. I think it's made us up our game. And yeah, and I like the fact that me and Dave have healthy competition who can find the best remixer for their track or who can make the best track. And yeah, it's good fun. Still do it 11 years later. It's a labour of love. It really is a labour of love. And again, I thought I knew a lot about the music industry, but when you start a record label, there's a whole other world of stuff I'd never even heard of or thought about. And it's ever evolving and constantly changing on almost a weekly, monthly basis. Musical styles to obviously it was vinyl, then it went to CDs, then it went to MP3s, and now it's just digital. Just so many things. And as you touched on before, social media, when it first came around and MySpace landed, I was like, oh, this is good. Whereas now I'm like, oh my God, flipping social media. I spend so much time doing social media. I wish I didn't have to. There's so many other things that I wish I could be doing, but it's a necessary evil. And even though it's a pain in the backside, it's how most people communicate, and especially with our kind of demographic, you have to put it there because how else are you going to get to people? People don't really do flyers anymore or stand outside clubs and things, which I'm quite glad about because I used to have to do that. I used to not go to Cream, but stay up. And then at 1:45, drive to town to give out flyers so people would come and see Danny Howells the following week at the Lemon Lounge. I don't miss that. I really don't miss that. So you've got to do social media. You have to. It's all part of it. I still don't understand it. I think I do. Sometimes you think, yeah, loads of people are going to love this, and you get like 2 likes. And then, as we mentioned before, you'll put a stupid post on, and 1,000 people will share it, and 30,000 people like it with 200 comments. You're like, no, listen to the music. Just listen to the music. But yeah, that's social media for you, isn't it? But yeah, Selador is a labour of love, and it's good fun. And we are now pushing our Seladoria parties, which we've kind of done a few of over the years. And this is our thing now. So it's going to be me and Dave, guests from the label. And during lockdown, we got some visuals made. We got a guy who did the graphics for. I mean, what we really wanted, and we said was, we want to look like the Chemical Brothers visuals, but we have not got the budget for the Chemical Brothers visuals. Far from it. Anyway, because it was lockdown, we somehow got the guy who did LCD sound systems visuals for Coachella. It was like, oh yeah, I haven't got any work on. I'll do it for you. Anyway, he designed these visuals. They're amazing. There's no way normally we could have afforded them. A lad called Steph from Bristol. He was brilliant, top lad, and his visuals are amazing. So our best gigs is we bring Steph along, and he not only because he designed all the visuals and he understands how we work musically, whereas we'll start deeper and the night will build and build and build. And so he does the visuals intensifying. So as the music intensifies, not just the build and the drop, but overall in the night, he'll do the projections to reflect that. And it's ace. I think it looks really good. I think I mean, Afterlife have taken it to the next level. And now, because of that, the visuals are so good, people are not actually dancing. They're all standing there with the phones out. We never want to get to that. We still want it to be about the music, but with an enhancement. So, yes. Seladoria, that's good. And we've got some good gigs coming up. We have got Ibiza in 2 weeks' time. Then we've got Liverpool for 909 in July. In August, we're back in Ibiza. September, I nearly said, but we haven't announced that yet. Somewhere we played not so long ago with a good lineup. And then October, we're back in Amsterdam for ADE with Danny Howells and Anthony Papa. So yeah, and that's another good thing, being able to give artists from the label gigs, because there's no money in it for them making music, so it's nice to be able to repay the favour. And luckily, a lot of the artists we have are mates of ours who we get on with really well, and we're more than happy to go out for a dance, a drink, a chat, sit in the pub with. So yeah, it's just a brilliant way. I mean, to go meet your mates in Amsterdam and all earn some money, that's flipping great. Playing the music you like, that's more than I could have ever imagined when I was sitting in my mate's house doing a pretend radio show when I was 15. So yeah, that's been quite a nice journey when I think of it like that. So that's all good.
Yeah, you can't get better than that. No. But let's quickly talk about Liverpool Football Club.
Yes. And before we get complaints.
and you know, like you said, when you were 6, you first went, and same with me. It just seems to be, especially back then, young kids, were able to go. It's a bit tougher now for families to take their kids, just because it's so expensive and everything, and tickets are like
very, 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 yeah.
But for you, what did Liverpool mean to you, like back in the day?
Well, like everyone else, I first just must have seen them on Match of the Day, and which I'd watch with my dad, or would be at my nan, so we'd watch it with my granddad as well. But how I first went to the game was, my dad used to work on the turnstiles at Anfield, and he said he was asking me for ages, do I want to go? And I don't know why I didn't. I mean, it was only 5 or 6. I was thinking, I know that I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyway, we used to go, and once I went, I was absolutely hooked and addicted. So this must have been 77. So it was somewhere in between losing my hero who I'd seen on the telly, Kevin Keegan, to finding who would then be my all-time favorite player, Kenny Dalglish. And that it was, I just remember going, oh no, and then going, oh yeah, over that year. So because my dad would work on the turnstile, we used to get there about, well, but in the morning I used to get dragged to Great Ormond Street Market, Great Tea Market, which I hated. I used to do murdering. Then we'd always go to Sayers and we get a steak and kidney pie, drop my mum off, and then we'd go to the match, get there about 12:30. My dad would get given a float on a box, and then we'd be told which gate he was on because it changed every week. And then we'd go in and literally open the doors, and people would slowly come in. Obviously, the nearer it got to 3:00, the more people that came in. But back then, it was pound notes, and hundreds of people would come in. I can't remember how much it was to come in then, but it must have been a few quid. So you can imagine how many pound notes were there. Anyway, so my dad had me counting age 5 or 6, putting all the notes in the right way around and counting in the hundreds. And I'd be like, oh, I'd never seen so much money in my life. There was hundreds, probably thousands sometimes. There must have been thousands. And it was just like, oh my God. So we used to do that until, I mean, if it was the bell would go, if it was a sellout, and that's it, you couldn't let anyone else in, which happens sometimes, definitely on the bigger games. But otherwise, it carry on till about 3:15 or something, 3:20, and then they shut the turnstile. So when I was 5 or 6, I didn't used to leave the turnstile much. I might have stood outside and spoken to the policeman or whatever. But then as I got a bit older, I used to like go into the ground and have a look around and sit in a seat and wait to see if anybody came in or whatever. Or I remember back then, I think the players used to drive to the match, and there used to always be really nice cars. And I used to always go and look at the cars, trying to work out whose car it was. I mean, back then, lots of them were sponsored from, was it Lookers or whoever? This car is Kenny Dalglish's or whoever it would be. And I used to be like, wow, that's his car. And then I used to always come and watch the away team come in, because their coach would pull up right to the door. They'd let people like, I mean, I was right. I could have touched them if I wanted to. They were very, very close to them. So yeah, that was a good thing. And then as time went by, I can particularly remember as my dad progressed, he must have been getting better and better. The Cop was always obviously the busiest gates, and I'd go and wait in the Cop while he was counting his money sometimes, or as the match would be building up, and I'd listen to the music that was getting played. And I mean, this was when it was obviously still the standing up Cop. My dad used to always say, go and find a barrier and stand in front of it, so if anyone pushes, they can't push you because the barrier's going to stop you. I was like, oh yeah, wise words, this is good. And he's like, you have to be careful though, because people might just have a wee. And I never got a weed on, but obviously lots of people must have done, because once people got in the spot, they weren't moving, were they? Especially if they'd had 3, 4, 5 pints before. And so yeah, they were my memories of the Cop, and I did that for years and years and years. And I can remember I'd religiously want to go, especially I was addicted to the European nights. I used to make sure that I went to all the European nights. And what we used to do after he counted his money, his dad would close the box, put the padlock on, put it under his arm. You'd have to wait for a policeman to come with you, shut the turnstile, lock the door, and then you'd walk. I can't remember which way we used to walk through, but the way to get to the place where you had to take the money to be counted was the only way to get to it was you had to walk along the edge of the pitch while there was 45,000 people in there. So it was very intimidating, because they weren't looking at you because we were watching the game that was being played, but you were literally walking along the edge of the pitch. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is full on, this is. And I never ever got used to it. That was always quite a mad thing to do. And then my dad would go in, say how much money was there, they'd count it in front of him. And then there used to be an area where they have reserved for all the turnstile guys and I think some of the off-duty stewards and policemen. So we'd have to go and sit down there. It was near the Anfield Road end I can't remember if it was the main stand or not. Yeah, it must have been the main stand. But yeah, so that was good. That was good fun. I did that for years and years and years, which of course I'm going to take full advantage of if I can jump over the turnstile and get in for nothing with my dad. I mean, I did my first year. I counted all the pound notes, more pound notes than I've ever seen in my life. I can remember when he changed the pound coins. That was a bit nuts. His box was a lot heavier then, a lot heavier than it used to be. But yeah, they were good times. And I think the first time I remember getting a proper ticket and going to the full match was when I was 11, and I got it for my birthday, and it was it was a derby match. And I took my little brother Neil, and I was like, "What a restricted view!" And when I got there, we had this big post in front of us, as you do. I was like, "Oh, is that what a restricted view needs?" It was just obviously one of the poles and the stand was on. But yeah, that was good times. And then yeah, I used to go quite a lot, and I loved it. And then Hillsborough came, and I just lost my love of football. I went off it for years, as I imagine many people did. And then sort of mid-90s, late 90s, I got back into it again, and I started going lots in the kind of Julian era. I pretty much saw most of. I remember one time being there, and I was like, "Who's this substitute coming on?" And they were like, "Oh, it's making his debut, a young lad from the academy, Stephen Gerrard." And I can just remember thinking, "Oh, he's quite good. Yeah, he's pretty tasty." And then the more I saw him, I was like, "Oh my god, I think I've got a new favourite player." So yeah, I mean, what a flipping powerhouse he was as well. And then yeah, I just kind of fell out of love with it a bit again. And then it was a time when I'd be working in record shops, so I couldn't go on a Saturday. And my brothers had season tickets, and they were like, "We can't go anymore." And I was like, "I can't take a season ticket off you. I can hardly ever get there. I'll probably go to like some of the midweek matches, and there's no point getting a season ticket for that." So that was another reason why I fell out of touch with the match. And also then it was just dead easy to watch on the telly back then, especially the European games, because they were always on the telly. And I just thought, rather than sitting cold, I mean, the Julian days, some of the times were terrible. Some of the matches were not their best. And I remember being bored senseless, thinking, and this was 30 years ago, I've probably spent 100 quid today and I'm not enjoying it. It's like, why am I doing this? And so I used to go and sit in with my mates and watch it there. And yeah, people slag me off and call me an armchair supporter. But hey, that's what I was doing. I was not an armchair clubber. At least I was going out 3 nights a week and playing music and stuff. So yeah, and then since then I haven't really been to the match for a long, long time. I am still a Liverpool fan. I'm definitely an armchair supporter, and I know people give me grief for that. But I've done my fair share. I've been to well more than 100, probably well more than 200 matches. So I think I've put a bit of a shift in.
Yeah, I don't understand, why you would get some jip though from people. Like, I mean, people have lives,
Yeah.
we do have lives. I used to be a season ticket holder as well, and then obviously moved over to the US, and I've been back, quite a few times. I was back this past time, January, against Newcastle, and it was just pissing down. And
Yes.
it was a great match to watch. I was in the Kenny Dalglish, and obviously the roof doesn't cover if you're in the first 20 rows. So I was being lashed down with rain, so I didn't quite enjoy that. But no, I mean, we're still all Liverpool supporters. Whether you sit on a couch and watch it, whether you go to the match, go to a pub, you still support the team. That's the thing. And, like you said before, I totally understand, when Hillsborough happened, I knew a couple of lads. I'm from Thornby, so I knew a couple of lads, that didn't come back.
Rubbish.
It did. It just, you do fall out of love with it because you're like, there's more to life than football. And
Yes.
I think it really shook a lot of people, and not just the people that were there. It's relatives, mates.
Yeah, of course.
It was tough, and I just feel like I'm not putting what's going on now with Hillsborough. That, don't get me wrong with any of that, but the whole thing that's going on right now with with Man City, with the charges, the PSR, what's happening, financial fair play.
Yeah.
That's putting me a little bit out of love with football as well. The VAR.
Yeah, totally. Because you don't know whether to flip and
It's
celebrate a goal.
Well, we go to a mass to be spontaneous.
Yeah.
And if a goal goes in, you jump up, you celebrate it, and then all of a sudden it's pulled back. You've got to wait to look at the screen. It's not like rugby. Rugby have got it down to a T.
Yeah.
They talk about it and everyone gets to hear it. I don't understand why football doesn't do it.
No.
It does take out the love of the game. And if it's a goal, 5 minutes later, you're just like, okay.
Hey, yeah, it's like forced
Yeah.
enthusiasm. No, I totally agree, and I don't think they should get rid of it because it works in rugby, it works in tennis, it works in other sports. They just need to know how to flip and use it properly and be transparent. Yeah,
Get people that actually know how to do it. Obviously, it's not really worked. I mean, this past season was just awful, especially for us. I'm not going to be like some people saying like we lost the league because of VAR decisions. The Spurs game was horrendous. The handball by Odegaard for Arsenal was ridiculous. It was never given.
yeah,
We didn't lose the league because of that. Would we have got more points? Maybe. We lost the league because we didn't finish our chances and let too many goals in. I mean, our defensive display was not very good from beginning of April to the end of the season. It's just one of those.
it was
And
a very strange end of the season. Very strange.
it was because we were doing really, really, really well. And
Yeah.
I think we brought some players back that weren't ready. I don't think Salah was ready. I don't think Trent was ready. Sloboslai fell off a cliff. The first 3 months, everyone's saying he's the next Stevie G. And then all of a sudden, I just think, the Premier League, the pace. I think a lot of these players who came in didn't realise the pace of the Premier League. Like Endo. Endo, first 6 months was like a snail.
Yeah.
And now he's come up,
I agree.
I wouldn't have picked him out of, to be a defensive midfielder. I would have gone for somebody a bit younger, a bit more robust. But, again, we had, to me, the greatest manager in my lifetime because I wasn't there during Shanks. I was there at tail end of Paisley.
Yeah, same, yeah.
Jurgen, to me, has been our greatest manager in my lifetime just because not only did he get the football, he got the city, he got the people. And it's very Shankly-esque. But, with what Liverpool do as a football club is, there was tears on the last day of the season, of course. Klopp was, we all wanted a Klopp hug. Everyone, don't care who you ask. A burly man who's 60 years old would want a Klopp hug. But
he was the only person not crying. I don't know how he did it. I was sitting watching it with my brother, and he came on. He was like, my brother was speaking to him, and I didn't answer him. And he's like, "You're right." I went, yeah. trying to not cry watching it on the telly. I was like, "Yeah, just stop talking." It was insane. It was flipping insane. But he's a people person. He's not just a brilliant manager. I mean, that is how he's become a brilliant manager because he knows how to deal and treat people and bring the best out of everyone. But he just seems like the person you'd love to be his mate.
Just have a bevy with.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it'll be a great loss, and I think for Liverpool, it's going to be a difficult season. I don't expect necessarily anything because it's going to be. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't even know who's necessarily going to stay or go or come in, and how the new manager will bring his tactics and stuff. I just hope he's given a bit of time, and I think Liverpool do hopefully give time to, I was going to say everyone, but everyone except Roy Hodgson, which I always thought was a terrible decision, and I think everyone will agree with me there. And he was never the right kind of person for Liverpool. So yeah, let's just see how the next. This sounds like a really long game, year or 2 or 3 goes. I mean,
Yeah.
if imagine if Man United would have got rid of Alex Ferguson after his terrible initial start, you've got to give people time to bed in. Unlike, I mean, and I know Chelsea fans who agree with this, unlike how Chelsea do it, unfortunately, because of the way they run their business. So yeah, crazy stuff. We'll have to just wait and see.
Well, Arne Slot's still in Ibiza, so you know he might not come back.
I saw a picture today. You never know. I'm playing there in a few weeks. I'll see if he wants to guest list. I also saw
Actually, see if he wants to be the manager of Liverpool still.
Yeah. I did see yesterday that Camel Fat were in DC10 with Everton's manager yesterday. That proper made me giggle.
Dyche. Really?
Yeah, he was.
Well, he's a Liverpool supporter as well.
Is he?
Yeah, Sean Dyche is a Liverpool supporter. Well, Camel Fat are, aren't they?
No, Camel Fat are Everton supporters. Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. I don't want to talk to them again.
Dave, who I love, is a very bitter Everton supporter as well. He used to give us
They're the best.
They're the
best.
Yeah.
They're the
best. but he loves it as well. Well, he's funny.
You got to take the banter, haven't you? That's the thing, you know. With Everton, you know, their trophy is supposedly stopping us from winning the league this past season, which they didn't. It was us drawing to Man United and losing to Palace. So if they want to keep thinking that, then go ahead. You know,
I'm not getting involved. I know too many close Everton fans, and I don't give. My deal is I don't give them grief, and they don't give me any grief. So it just makes my life easier. But
Well. Yeah, well, I've got cousins that are Evertonians, and I'll get at them as
much as you can. Yeah, you can do it for us all. That's good. That's fine. No,
well,
all good.
Before we go, I always like to ask my musical guests, your festival headliners, alive or dead, for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Not just DJs, but bands or singers.
Okay. Right. So, Chic, probably. I put Chic in there because their music to me still sounds as good today as it did in 1977, and it's cutting edge, and it's just brilliantly crafted music, and probably the band I've seen more than any other. I think I've seen them about 6 or 7 times live, and they do a very similar set every time. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine by me. They just always throw in a couple of other sort of things. Oh yeah, we produced this one. You didn't know we did this one by Duran Duran. I'm like, oh, did you? Did you produce that? Who else? Well, it's got to be some kind of Paul McCartney, Beatles related things, because very stereotypically Scouse. They're my favorite band of all time, and I'm quite obsessed with reading books, watching documentaries about them. I reckon I've watched 50 documentaries about the Beatles, and I always try and find more about them. I listen to podcasts, I buy books about them, and the more I learn, the more I realise how groundbreaking and amazing they were. So they can be the Saturday night. So Chic on the Friday, let's say Beatles on the Saturday, and I need one for the Sunday. Oh my God, there's millions of places I could go to. Tears for Fears. There you go. Tears for Fears. They were my 80s band who I was really, really into, and I got quite obsessed with them. I loved the music. I loved their albums. I loved the fact that they did 12 inches. They did 12-inch remixes, and they used to do the remixes that sounded different from the tracks. And I finally got to see them about 5 years ago in Liverpool, and it flipping blew my head off. Absolutely, they blew me away. I was like, wow, I knew it would be good, but I've waited since the 80s to see this, and it was better than I imagined. So yeah, a mixed bag. And maybe Shaka Khan can come on and do a guest spot for Chic. There you go, because she's probably my favourite singer. But you've got to stop me, because otherwise I'll just keep going. I'll fill up a few months worth of the festival diary.
No, it's crazy because I've got a Stephen F. Kelly. He's an author and he's a Liverpool supporter. I've got him in a few weeks, and he's just come out with a brand new book called "How the Beatles Rocked the World."
Okay, cool.
Definitely you should check that out. But actually, "Pale Shelter" is one of my favourite tracks from Tears for Fears, and I've got astounding remixes from that. But yeah, no, that's a fantastic lineup. I'd pay for that.
Oh, good, okay. Just me and you there. No one else. Just middle-aged men who support Liverpool.
Yeah. They're all right. Yeah, we're not old farts, yeah. But thanks so much, Steve, for coming on and, spending an hour and a half chatting about, your musical roots and your journey and supporting Liverpool. So I really appreciate that. And please, anybody that likes, music, go check Steve out. Selador Records as well. Just absolutely amazing music. It's again, anybody that knows me, I'm a massive music fan. So, if I have Steve on, then obviously I've got good taste. So
I'm not going to argue with you. And listen, keep doing what you're doing. I think that the array of guests that you have, from radio DJs to underground house DJs to Liverpool players, is a brilliant mix, and long may it continue.
I appreciate that, mate. Everyone, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanking you.